Allowed na.
Can we start na po?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, classmates. Oh, so before we start, let me introduce first the presenters for today's presentation about the case studies of three farmers in Maasin, Leyte Island, the Philippines. So I'm January Paginawan Macalos, your first presenter, followed by Hainely Luayon, Princess Dan Marie Ren, Aya A.V.K. Mejos, and Angelo Montajes. So our topic is all about the case studies of three farmers in Maasin, Leyte Island, the Philippines. So first, we have the overview of the study. Next slide, please. So this study was conducted in southern Leyte, specifically in Maasin City. The purpose of the study is to gain insight on the problems and benefits of growing and managing trees. So all throughout the study, it was found that tree farmers were motivated to plant trees after receiving free seedlings from the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. The keywords of the studies are in-depth interviewing, tree registration, free seedlings, harvest security, and market information. So next. The introduction. Currently in Leyte Island, reforestation and protection of natural forests is difficult. That was according to MTH of 2004. It is because livelihood of some people causing damage impact on natural resources. Lack of opportunities and reliance on land also results damage. So, in order to counter the damage of the natural forest, a smallholder farmer is perceived as being viable land use for promoting rural development and improving the socio-economic situation of resource-poor people. However, the rate of tree planting by smallholders is slow. Next slide, please. According to the survey conducted by MTH of 2004, it was found that about 60% of people surveyed in 4 rural communities in Leyte Island expressed an interest in commercial tree planting. However, only a small population of landholders undertake the tree farming. Then, this paper reports finding of case studies about the way in which tree farmers in Maasin Leyte province are managing trees. And it also reviews the policies and practice of DENR to encourage farmers in tree planting. So DENR impacts the ways smallholders manage their tree farms and the reason for their choice to grow on trees is discussed. Next slide, please. So we have now the research method. So the study's information was obtained through personal interviews and with the use of digital technology. The case studies candidates or the tree farmers were identified through the help of the Senro staff in Maasin. Before the interviews, of course, respondents were selected based on the criteria that describes management situation of the tree farmers in Maasin Senro area or Community Environment and Natural Resource Office. So I will show you the criterion used to select the tree farmers for interviews. Next slide, please. So, pag dili siya maklaro, you can i-zoom lang ninyo para makita gid ninyo ang kuan. The figure 1 shows the CINRO areas of a jurisdiction in the province of Southern Leyte. So the small one is the island of Leyte. Since Leyte Island is consist of 5 community, environment, and natural resource office. So the big map here is the Southern Leyte CINRO. And of course, the table 1 shows the criterion used to select the 5 tree farmers for interviews. So we have here the criterion and the number of the 5 respondents meeting the criterion. So all respondents meet the willingness to be included in the video compact disc or the BCD extension materials. All of the respondents also meet the tree farm located within the Maasin CINRO jurisdictional area. From a low income bracket, only 1 among the 5 respondents meet the criterion. Tree farm located on privately owned land. All of the respondents meet this criterion, and tree farm is an interesting case to present. All of the respondents meet the criterion and has registered their trees, has not registered their trees, and has a plantation that is ready to harvest. At least 1 of the respondents. Not interested in selling their timber, at least 1 of the respondents meet the criterion, this criterion, and then have been provided with assistance from Maasin CINRO. All of the respondents meet the criteria. So let us go back here to the figure, the figure 1. So the study chose this area because it is the major tree farming on the comparison with the other areas in Leyte. Shall we go back now to the research method now? So we have here the result, the methods we used in this study, the personal interviews and the digital technology. So in-depth interviewing does not necessarily use a preset of questions in turn. Of course, in order for us to the purpose for this is that the respondents feel that they are able to speak openly about their thoughts and to gauge additional information. Kasi marami kasi kapag nag-i-interview ka, dapat hindi yung tuloy-tuloy yung questions mo. I mean, dapat direct ka sa question mo, yung isa lang. Kasi just like for example, in doing research kasi dapat hindi yung just like for example ng what are the benefits of growing trees, what are your what are the problems you encountered. Dapat hindi ganun. Dapat yung question mo isa lang talaga siya. Tapos sasagutin muna ng respondents bago ka mag-add pa ng ibang questions. Kasi maguguluhan yung respondents kung kapag tinuloy-tuloy mo yung questions. So, para mas maganda yung flow, dapat direct lang talaga yung question mo. I mean, yung isa lang tapos pasagutan mo muna tapos saka ka na mag-question ulit. So, the personal interviews were informal and were conducted to the farmer's property. Yes, this was used in this study in order for the farmers to properly establish the relationship between the researchers and the respondents. Kasi kapag mas komportable kasi yung mga respondents natin na sumagot sa ating interview kapag nandun sila sa lugar nila, unlike kung nasa opisina mo, yung while nag-conduct kayo ng while nag-survey sa farm or sa tree farms of the respondents, doon lang din nag-i-interview para mas maganda yung interaction. And then digital technology. So we use digital technology to records of relevant permits and pre-registration documents were copied by taking photograph with a digital camera. And then recording of interviews was undertaken with an MP3 digital recorder in Ingles and Cebuano dialect. So this digital technology was used in order for the researchers to reduce yung pressure kasi kapag nag-i-interview ka dapat wala kang ibang ginagawa kundi nag-i-interview ka lang talaga. Hindi yung nagli-list down ka ng mga sinasabi sa mga sagot ng respondents. Mas mabuti kasi yung nire-record mo lang yun para tuloy-tuloy yung conversation niyo. Tapos yung documents ng mga 3 registrations at mga permits, it is also important na ma-save mo yun as yung para proof siya na ganito talaga na kung ilang trees yung nare-registered, kung yung mga farmers pa may permits pa sa kanilang trees, and then yun. Then I think that's all for my part. So shall we proceed to the next reporter?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Hanili Loayon, and I'm going to report the description of the respondents. So all of the respondents attend high school, but not all had completed high school, and all have children. It means they have families, and all of them have a knowledge of forestry policies, having friends that receive seedlings, and one of them had an income of 100,000 and 120,000 pesos per year, and one of them had a less than income of 50,000 per year. And 3 of the respondents has an income of more than 150,000 per year. Motivations for tree farming. None of the respondents relied on tree farming as their sole source of income, and most took the view that there is good money in trees, but it takes many years to thrive. And only one of the respondents did not wish to derive any income from their trees and had planted for environmental reason, as well as to use timbers for on-farm purpose, and all of the respondents felt that tree farming was a worthwhile and financially viable venture. In lower income bracket, they produce seedlings in their own, with the seeds collected from a tree growing near their home, and Senro provide training to manage how to grow and manage trees. All land for planting trees was selected by DNR. One of the respondents still had coconuts growing within their plantation. 4 respondents that they are planting trees in behalf of their children. Also, respondents felt that growing timbers themselves and would take pride in knowing they grew their own timbers. So in this table, it represents that this is the table for the respondents' motivation for planting trees. That's all.
Kadali naman tayo na.
Bay, iwan imong mic.
Nakamute ka.
Iwan imong mic.
Wala ka pa din ako noon. Sorry. Ah, what's up? So my name is Princess Dan Mariren, and I am going to report species selection and tree farm management. So species choice by respondents was based on resources, including free seedlings that available to excuse me, that available to and recommendations by the center. So one respondent who did not receive free seedlings from Senro, so he chose to plant these three types of trees, no, the Gemelina or the Gemelina arborea, Bagalunga or Melea dubea, and Mahogany or Swietenia macrophylla. So the reason why is because the seeds of these trees are available in their barangay. No, and 4 respondents had planted Gemelina and 3 of them had planted Mahogany. Because the seeds were provided by the Senro. So why did the Senro chose to introduce these trees? As a trivia, let me disclose the uses of these trees. So the Gemelina, it is useful for plywood for stock, feed props, matches, furniture, general carpentry, packing, carriages, carvings, musical instruments, and ornamental work. While the Bagalunga, the wood of this tree is used majorly in plywood industry and also paper, matches, packaging, and etc. And the Mahogany, in particular, it has significant medicinal properties. It is used to treat diverse ailments based on its antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant effects, anti-mutagenic, anti-cancer, anti-tumor, and anti-diabetic activities. So through this disclosure of their uses, so mabalaan na to, nabalaan na to nga profitable sa mga trees. No? And in addition, the respondent who mainly planted the trees for aesthetic purposes chose to include native species, while the others preferred to plant exotic species. So, next is management of the trees was greatly influenced by the advice given by the Senate. So the respondent who did not wish to derive income from the trees used brushing for weed control and applied organic fertilizer to the trees during establishment. Next is the table 3 reports the silviculture applied to the trees and why this was applied, as well as advice provided by the Senro. So, no thinning, but would like to thin in the future. The reason, the bigger trees will get bigger if the smaller trees are thin. So this respondent, aside from having those species of trees, no specific species of trees, napud siya coconut plantation. So thinning is advised by the DENR. So according to this respondent, sa future na lang daw siya mag-thin. Sabi niya, kasi gusto pa niya kuhaan og income ang iyahang coconut, plantation, ano ba? And ang mangyari kasi kapag kanabito mabangga siya sa lawas sa coconut, no, so it could affect the growth and the development of that tree. Mo na siya, so mo na yung problema mo, kailangan siya i-thin. And then in addition, pruning, it is to improve the tree growth. And then the pruning, make the trees grow faster and straighter. And yes, it is advised by the DENR. Then the brushing for weed control, especially upon establishment. And yes, advised by the DENR. Then fertilizer upon establishment to increase the growth rate. And yes, it was advised by the DENR, although one respondent claimed that little encouragement was provided by the Senro. Okay, so next please. Gang, next na tagang. Yan. So respondents' main methods of choosing species and managing them. Follow the directions of Senro and prioritize their time devoted to the tree farm management. But actually, wala gini sila ingon nga nag-focus sila sa pag-manage sa ilahang trees, no? Kay aside sa dili naman kani ang ilahang kuan good ang ilahang source of income na pailain, and also they depended mostly on natural conditions to bring an acceptable growth rate. So diha lang sila nagdepende. Next please. So let's turn to the next topic, the ENR policies associated with tree farming on private land. All the respondents, all the respondents had some knowledge of DENR forestry policies because all had some interaction with the Senro in Maasin. There were positive and negative perceptions of tree registration policies in particular, as listed in Table 4. So let us read the comments of the 5 respondents, no? First, laws are made for people and it should not be the other way around. Second, often dealings with the DENR are unfair for poor farmers. Third, tree registration gives harvest and transport security. Fourth, some policies are not fair. Fifth, tree registration and transport permits do not necessarily provide security for harvest and transport without a problem. Kasi this respondent, during transporting the tree, no, nagkaaberya kasi ang PNP hinarangan sila, although this respondent is complete na ang kanyang permit and asa ang kuan legal documents na siya kompleto. And mo ni reason nganong ang PNP ug ang Senro nagka-conflict. So the 7th, tree registration is good because the trees are inventory. 8, tama ba ni? Tree registration is easy and free. Next is even if tree registration costs money, it is still a good policy. And then tree registration should not be necessary. So in table 4, it shows that most of the respondents felt that the tree registration and other policies were important for harvesting and transport because they help ensure that logging is legal by providing an ownership of the trees. Now let's turn to table 5 to elucidate the informations. Next na lang. Yan. Claro. Okay, so table 5. This reveals some variations and inconsistencies in the procedures and fees for meeting legal requirements. So let me read the headings first. So there are 5 respondents, and then the knowledge of policies, then procedure taken to meet legal requirements, then problems with policies, and then advantages of policies. So the first respondent and the second, they have the same knowledge of policies, no? Has a general understanding of the policies from the Senro. And then the respondent wants a procedure taken to meet legal requirements, random sampling undertaken by Senro for tree registration, and transport permit obtained. There's a problems with policies? None. In fact, he was happy to pay 500 convenient to secure certification of land ownership from the barangay captain. And then the advantages, security. Felt tree registration is a legal requirement and is needed to sell timber. Since the respondent 2
Okay, parehas lang sila ni respondent 1, knowledge of policies. Then sa procedure taken, trees measured by Senro for tree registration, also before transport. Then problems, none gihapon. Tree registration was free. And advantages, security. Pareharan ni sila 1, 2, 3, and 4 sa advantages. Then si respondent 3, he has a general understanding of policies through communication with a neighbor. Chismis lang. Then procedure, every tree was measured for tree registration. And then problems, had timber apprehended by the PNP, even though all permits were applied for through the Senro, led to conflict between the Senro and PNP. So yun sabi ko kanina. Then advantages for the security. Then si respondent 4, he has a general understanding of the policies from the Senro. Then procedure, every tree was measured and the boundaries surveyed, as well as photographs taken for free registration. And problems, found it easy to register trees, which was free. And advantages for security. Then respondent 5, limited understanding of tree registration processes. Has not applied for tree registration or other permits, and he believes that people who pay tax should have the right to use trees on their land without having to register their trees, and did not want to harvest and felt no need to register trees, but realizes would need to register if harvesting and transporting. Kani siya nga respondent, kato maguni siyang nagtanom lang siya og trees for aesthetic reasons only. So, yeah, that's all. Thank you. Next na.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Aya Ibigay Host, your reporter number 4 for this 4 interaction, Sandra in Maasin, and the knowledge about marketing of timber. So let's start with the interaction in them. Although all of the respondents had friends in Sendro, one of the 5 respondents still feel that the center did not encourage them and did not provide enough advice on how to manage trees. So one of them did not receive free seedlings and free consultations of their plants. What they did is they only produced their own seeds with the seeds they collected around from their homes. So what happened here is that they were left behind in terms on how to properly manage their trees, in my observation. But aside from that, Sandra still do their part by providing them with some trainings on how to manage their trees. So 4 of the 5 respondents, however, felt that they were given advice by the Sandro, including the following information on when to harvest, when to prune and thin, as well as policy information, how to propagate, and being involved in integrated social forestry project of the DNR. So, katong nagkuan jud kanang nag-seek jud help sa sendro, na jud sila mga benefits na makuha gikan po sa sendro. So, next, let's proceed in knowledge about marketing of timber. So, table 6 depicts how tree farmers advertise their timber under the instruction of Sendro, as well as how consumers react to it. Let me show you at table 6 which their ways of marketing are indicated. So this is the table 6 respondents' knowledge of market for their timber. So in the left side of the table, it shows the knowledge of the market. And in the right side, it shows the number of response. So first, in the knowledge of market, the buyer only wanted to buy from respondent if they had registered their trees. So, ang buyer kay willing lang siya mopalit pag naka-registered ang tree sa mga atong farmer. So, 4 ang nag-respond. The sender helped to
Option of
market
tree farming and the way in which trees are managed have been influenced by the interaction of tree farmers with the Sindro in Masin. In addition, tree farming has been used as an additional livelihood activity on top of other supplementing income. So, ang tree farming, tabang po siya as additional income. So, kung natay lain ako ang trabaho, magdoble atong income. In all the cases investigated in this study, the respondents most probably will not have planted trees without Sinro input. DNR policies will assist Sinro officer in helping people to fulfill legal requirements and encourage replanting. So, ang DNR, nagatabang mo siya para sa mga tao, process o mga papers, o nag-encourage po siya sa mga tao para mag-tree planting. And that's all.
So in summary, current circumstances that shows that tree farming is viable for people with other means of generating short-term income. So tree farming as or for those kuan lang siya para lang to siya sa mga naadjud siya short-term income kanang naay other nga income, since tree farming is a long-term income ang nga klase sa activity. And then with more training and face-to-face advice provided to smallholders, widespread tree planting would be achieved. Since many of the reasons, adaptation of the farming and the way in which trees are managed have influenced by the interaction between the tree farmers and with the Senro in Maasin. Next slide, please. So acknowledgements. We would like to thank the Australian Center of the International Agriculture Research for providing funding support, and Eduardo Mangawang, Rotasio Graboso, Edwin Balbarino, and Beleta Biga for providing advice on the research methods. Additionally, we would like to thank the personnel of Senro Maasin who provided information and guidance for the study, Rosela Bisabihon and Ariel Pergosa for helping to conduct fieldwork, and Steve Harrison and Lynn Rosell for assistance in preparing this study. And lastly, we would also like to thank the respondents of the study for patiently providing information about their tree farms. So the references are as follows. That's all for our topic. Thank you.
Okay, congratulations sa Group 1. It's really excellent. No? Lahat kayo have done well, and I really commend each of you kasi pwede na good mo professional na kayo mo in your presentation. No, I really like your slides. You made it interesting. The fact that the report were so wordy and very complex, but the way you explain, each of you has explained it very well. Now you really have understand your topic, but then I will let some of your classmates. Okay lang po ba kung mag-countdown kung starts in countdown na? Mag-countdown ka, ma'am, starts in 3. Pag ano, John Ray? Yes, John Ray?
Yes, so mamaya na lang po, ma'am, para sa.
Okay, but
there's something special.
Okay, we will not have the Q&A ngayon kasi as I have told you, every session 40 minutes lang pa, although more than 40 minutes. But next time ano na ko ang time para dito lang sa mo sa waiting area bago ta mo i-accept para dili na ta makuha ang time. Kasi supposedly enough na ang time, but now I have realized na pag ano pala pag mag Q&A na ta, mahutdan yung tag time, no? But so ano lang siguro since 5 man kabok, no? 5 man mo,
Yes po,
no?
ma'am.
So kung 5 mo
Yes,
kabuok, the first 3 muna ang mag-report, then the next na ang second 2 person together with the Q&A. Pero tawag dun, and if ever upat lang mo or duha, so tagduha-duha lang sa and together with the Q&A. So for now, I will reserve my questions for the next meeting, no, before we start with the next reporter. No, maybe naana ba ready nga next reporter? So the group 2 should be ready already, no? The first 2 reporters ng group 2. Okay? So next meeting I just have few question, no, for one for each of the very brilliant na reporters, and siguro mga kuan mo tanan no, mga cum laude mo, as in how would you mo in fact in speaking, in English speaking, you're really good, so congratulations, no, para sa kuan mo perfect. So I hope the rest of your classmates will continue that level of, presentation or even more, hopefully. So for the Q&A, which is also part of the grading, so sorry sis, sorry wala man ako na explain ang inyong ano. So criteria. So I will post the criteria sa Facebook group na lang. So that so John Ray, ang sa'yo pasabutin mo na countdown inig-start na to.
Okay lang po ba na mag-countdown ka po ma'am from 3?
Okay. I-set na lang ako siya kasi I have actually set the link na maka-come in mo before sa ko.
Ma'am,
before start. Yes?
I mean this time po ma'am. Kailan po ba na mag-countdown po kayo?
Ma'am, allow me to record, ma'am.
Ganon. Allow to record. Wait lang, ha. Ay. Observe lang, ha. Wait lang. Come out. Stop sa nako-record. Ay, medium din, itanga.
Jel,